Chapter 1 of Atomic Habits by James Clear is titled The Surprising Power of Tiny Habits, and serves as an introduction to the book's overall theme of creating lasting change through small, incremental improvements. The chapter begins by explaining that habits are the building blocks of larger systems and that by focusing on making small changes to our habits, we can make significant progress over time. Clear introduces the concept of the habit loop, which consists of a cue, a routine, and a reward. He explains that all habits follow this pattern and that understanding it is key to changing our behavior. Clear also notes that habits are formed through repetition and that by repeating a behavior, it becomes more automatic and easier to perform. The chapter then delves into the idea of atomic habits, which are small habits that are easy to perform and that can be repeated consistently over time. Clear argues that these tiny habits are the foundation of larger, more significant changes and that by focusing on them, we can make meaningful progress in our lives. He also notes that small habits are more sustainable than larger ones and that by starting with something small, we can build momentum and increase our chances of success. Clear provides several examples of small habits that can have a significant impact over time, such as reading for just 5 minutes each day, doing a single push-up, or writing just a few sentences in a journal. He emphasizes that the goal is not to make massive changes overnight, but rather to focus on making small, consistent improvements over time. Finally, the chapter concludes by noting that while small habits may seem insignificant on their own, they add up over time to create significant change. Clear emphasizes the importance of patience and persistence, noting that change takes time and that the key to success is to focus on making small, consistent improvements every day. Overall, Chapter 1 of Atomic Habits sets the stage for the book's overall theme of creating lasting change through small, incremental improvements. It introduces the concept of the habit loop and emphasizes the importance of starting with small habits to build momentum and increase the chances of success. The chapter provides a solid foundation for the rest of the book and is a valuable read for anyone looking to create positive changes in their life. Chapter 2 of Atomic Habits by James Clear is titled, How Your Habits Shape Your Identity, and Vice Versa, and explores the relationship between our habits and our sense of self. Clear argues that our habits are a reflection of our identity, and that by changing our habits, we can change our self-image and, in turn, our lives. The chapter begins by discussing the concept of identity-based habits, which are habits that are aligned with our self-image. Clear argues that by focusing on developing habits that align with the type of person we want to be, we can create a powerful motivation to follow through on them. He notes that by changing our internal narrative and identifying as the type of person who performs a certain behavior, we can make it more likely that we will follow through on that behavior. Clear provides several examples of how identity-based habits can lead to significant changes in our lives, such as the story of a smoker who quit smoking by identifying as a non-smoker, or the story of a writer who overcame writer's block by identifying as a writer who writes every day. In each case, the person changed their self-image and, in turn, their behavior. The chapter also discusses the idea that our habits shape our identity, noting that by consistently performing a behavior, we reinforce our sense of self as someone who performs that behavior. Clear argues that this can be a powerful tool for creating lasting change, as by focusing on developing small, consistent habits, we can gradually shape our self-image and create a sense of identity that is aligned with the type of person we want to be. Finally, the chapter concludes by noting that the key to developing identity-based habits is to focus on small, incremental improvements over time. Clear emphasizes that change is not an overnight process, and that the key to success is to focus on making consistent progress every day. Overall, Chapter 2 of Atomic Habits provides a compelling argument for the importance of aligning our habits with our identity. It highlights the power of identity-based habits and how they can lead to significant changes in our lives. The chapter provides a valuable framework for understanding the relationship between our habits and our sense of self, and is a valuable read for anyone looking to create lasting change in their lives. Chapter 3 of Atomic Habits by James Clear is titled, How to Build Better Habits in 4 Simple Steps, and provides a practical framework for creating and maintaining new habits. Clear argues that by following these 4 steps, anyone can develop new habits that are sustainable and effective. The chapter begins by discussing the importance of starting small when developing new habits. Clear notes that by focusing on small, incremental changes, we can build momentum and create lasting change over time. He introduces the concept of habit stacking, which involves linking a new habit to an existing habit, making it easier to remember and follow through on. Clear then introduces the 4 steps for building better habits: cue, craving, response, and reward. He notes that by following these steps, we can create a habit loop that reinforces our behavior and makes it more likely that we will continue to perform the habit over time. The first step, cue, involves creating a trigger or reminder for the behavior we want to perform. This could be something as simple as setting an alarm or placing a reminder in a visible location. The second step, craving, involves creating a sense of desire or motivation for the behavior. Clear notes that by linking the behavior to a positive outcome or emotion, we can create a sense of anticipation and excitement around performing the behavior. The third step, response, involves performing the behavior itself. Clear notes that by starting with a small, manageable action, we can create a sense of success and progress that motivates us to continue. The fourth step, reward, involves providing a positive outcome or reinforcement for performing the behavior. Clear notes that by linking the behavior to a positive outcome, we can create a sense of satisfaction and motivation to continue. The chapter also discusses the importance of creating a supportive environment for our habits. Clear notes that by surrounding ourselves with people who support our goals and by removing barriers to our behavior, we can make it easier to maintain our habits over time. Finally, the chapter concludes by emphasizing the importance of consistency and persistence when developing new habits. Clear notes that change takes time, and that by focusing on small, consistent improvements, we can create lasting change in our lives. Overall, Chapter 3 of Atomic Habits provides a practical framework for creating and maintaining new habits. The chapter introduces the 4 steps for building better habits, as well as the concept of habit stacking and the importance of creating a supportive environment. It is a valuable read for anyone looking to develop new habits or improve their existing ones. Chapter 4 of Atomic Habits by James Clear is titled "The Man Who Didn't Look Right," and tells the story of Claude Hopkins, a successful advertising executive from the early 1900s. Hopkins was known for his ability to create successful advertising campaigns for some of the biggest companies of his time, including Pepsodent toothpaste. Clear uses Hopkins' story to illustrate the power of habit, noting that Hopkins was able to create successful campaigns by tapping into people's existing habits and desires. Hopkins realized that by creating a craving or desire for a product, he could create a powerful incentive for people to buy it. Clear notes that this same principle can be applied to creating personal habits. By tapping into our existing desires and cravings, we can create powerful incentives for ourselves to perform certain behaviors. Clear uses the example of exercise, noting that by focusing on the benefits of exercise, such as increased energy and improved health, we can create a sense of desire and motivation to perform the behavior. The chapter also discusses the importance of creating a sense of urgency or scarcity around our habits. Clear notes that by creating a sense of urgency or scarcity, we can create a stronger desire to perform the behavior. He uses the example of limited-time offers in advertising, noting that by creating a sense of urgency around the offer, companies can create a stronger desire to buy the product. Clear also notes the importance of creating a sense of identity around our habits, as discussed in Chapter 2. By identifying as the type of person who performs a certain behavior, we can create a sense of motivation and self-image that reinforces our habits. Finally, the chapter concludes by emphasizing the importance of creating a positive feedback loop around our habits. Clear notes that by creating a sense of satisfaction or reward for performing the behavior, we can create a positive reinforcement loop that makes it more likely that we will continue to perform the behavior over time. Overall, Chapter 4 of Atomic Habits provides a compelling argument for the power of habit and the importance of tapping into our existing desires and cravings to create effective habits. The chapter provides practical examples of how this principle has been used in advertising and how it can be applied to personal habits. It is a valuable read for anyone looking to create effective and sustainable habits. Chapter 5 of Atomic Habits by James Clear is titled The Best Way to Start a New Habit, and provides practical tips for starting new habits and making them stick. Clear notes that the key to creating effective habits is to start small and focus on consistency. The chapter begins by discussing the importance of choosing the right cue for our habit. Clear notes that by choosing a cue that is easy to remember and easy to act on, we can create a strong trigger for our habit. He also notes that by stacking our new habit on an existing habit, we can make it easier to remember and more likely to become a part of our routine. Clear also notes the importance of creating a plan for our habit. He suggests breaking the habit down into small, manageable steps and creating a schedule for when we will perform the behavior. He notes that by planning ahead, we can avoid common pitfalls and create a sense of accountability for ourselves. The chapter also discusses the importance of tracking our progress. Clear notes that by tracking our behavior and monitoring our progress, we can create a sense of satisfaction and motivation that reinforces our habits. He suggests using a habit tracker or journal to keep track of our behavior and measure our progress over time. Clear also notes the importance of creating a supportive environment for our habits. He suggests finding a community of people who share our goals and can provide support and encouragement. He also notes the importance of removing barriers to our behavior, such as reducing distractions or creating a specific space for our habit. Finally, the chapter concludes by emphasizing the importance of celebrating our successes. Clear notes that by creating a sense of satisfaction and reward for our behavior, we can create a positive reinforcement loop that makes it more likely that we will continue to perform the habit over time. Overall, Chapter 5 of Atomic Habits provides practical tips for starting new habits and making them stick. The chapter emphasizes the importance of starting small, choosing the right cue, creating a plan, tracking our progress, creating a supportive environment, and celebrating our successes. It is a valuable read for anyone looking to develop new habits or improve their existing ones. Chapter 6 of Atomic Habits by James Clear is titled Motivation is Overrated, Environment Often Matters More, and challenges the commonly held belief that motivation is the key to creating successful habits. Clear argues that our environment plays a much more significant role in shaping our behavior than our motivation does. Clear notes that our environment includes not just our physical surroundings, but also the people, objects, and information that we interact with on a daily basis. He suggests that by changing our environment, we can make it easier to perform certain behaviors and harder to perform others. The chapter provides several examples of how our environment can impact our behavior. Clear notes that by making healthy foods more visible and accessible, we can make it easier to choose healthy eating habits. He also notes that by removing distractions, such as turning off our phone during work hours, we can make it easier to focus on the task at hand. Clear also notes the importance of creating an environment that reinforces our desired habits. He suggests using visual cues, such as a habit tracker or a picture of our desired outcome, to remind ourselves of our goals and stay motivated. He also suggests creating a physical space that is dedicated to our habit, such as a home gym or a designated work area. The chapter also discusses the importance of social norms in shaping our behavior. Clear notes that by surrounding ourselves with people who share our desired habits, we can create a sense of accountability and support that reinforces our behavior. He also notes that by adopting the beliefs and values of the people around us, we can create a sense of identity that reinforces our desired habits. Finally, the chapter concludes by emphasizing the importance of creating an environment that makes it easy to start our desired habits. Clear notes that by making the initial steps of our habit as easy as possible, we can overcome the initial resistance and make it more likely that we will continue the behavior over time. Overall, Chapter 6 of Atomic Habits provides a compelling argument for the importance of our environment in shaping our behavior. The chapter provides practical examples of how we can change our environment to make it easier to perform our desired habits, and emphasizes the importance of creating an environment that reinforces our desired behavior. It is a valuable read for anyone looking to create effective and sustainable habits. Chapter 7 of Atomic Habits by James Clear is titled The Secret to Self-Control, and explores the concept of willpower and self-control. Clear argues that willpower is a limited resource that can be depleted over time, and that the key to developing self-control is to focus on creating habits that require less willpower to maintain. The chapter begins by discussing the concept of decision fatigue, which is the idea that the more decisions we make throughout the day, the less willpower we have to make good decisions later on. Clear notes that by automating certain decisions through habit formation, we can conserve our willpower and make it easier to maintain our desired behavior over time. Clear suggests that one way to reduce decision fatigue and conserve willpower is to create a daily routine. By creating a routine, we can automate certain behaviors and make them a part of our daily habit loop, reducing the need for willpower to maintain them. Clear also notes that by eliminating decision-making from our routine, such as by planning our meals or outfits ahead of time, we can further conserve our willpower for more important decisions. The chapter also explores the concept of temptation bundling, which is the idea of combining a desired behavior with a behavior that we enjoy. By combining the two behaviors, we can create a sense of pleasure and satisfaction that reinforces our desired habit and makes it easier to maintain over time. Clear also notes the importance of creating an environment that supports our desired behavior. He suggests removing temptations and distractions from our environment, such as by limiting our exposure to social media or keeping unhealthy snacks out of our sight. He also suggests surrounding ourselves with people who support our desired habits and can provide accountability and motivation. Finally, the chapter concludes by emphasizing the importance of focusing on progress, not perfection. Clear notes that by embracing the idea of continuous improvement and focusing on small wins, we can create a sense of momentum that reinforces our desired habits and makes it easier to maintain them over time. Overall, Chapter 7 of Atomic Habits provides practical tips for developing self-control and maintaining our desired habits. The chapter emphasizes the importance of conserving willpower, creating a routine, using temptation bundling, creating a supportive environment, and focusing on progress over perfection. It is a valuable read for anyone looking to develop stronger self-control and create effective and sustainable habits. In Chapter 8 of Atomic Habits, James Clear explores the concept of making a habit irresistible. He argues that to make a habit more attractive and appealing, we need to understand the underlying factors that influence our behavior and make it more likely for us to engage in certain habits. Clear introduces the concept of the habit loop, which consists of three key elements: the cue, the routine, and the reward. He argues that by manipulating each of these elements, we can make a habit more appealing and therefore more likely to stick. The first step in making a habit irresistible is to make the cue more obvious. Clear suggests using environmental cues, such as placing a reminder in a visible location, or using social cues, such as asking a friend to remind us to engage in the habit. He also suggests using implementation intentions, which are specific plans for when and where we will engage in the habit. The second step is to make the routine more attractive. Clear notes that one way to do this is to add a sense of enjoyment or pleasure to the habit. He suggests finding ways to make the habit more enjoyable, such as by listening to music or incorporating a social aspect, like joining a group or class. He also suggests finding ways to make the habit more convenient, such as by reducing the time or effort required. The third step is to make the reward more satisfying. Clear notes that we are more likely to repeat a habit if we feel a sense of immediate gratification or satisfaction. He suggests finding ways to make the reward more enjoyable or meaningful, such as by celebrating small wins or finding ways to make the habit more personally rewarding. Clear also explores the role of identity in habit formation. He argues that by aligning our habits with our desired identity, we are more likely to engage in and maintain those habits over time. He suggests creating a personal mantra or identity statement that reinforces our desired habits and aligns with our values. Overall, Chapter 8 of Atomic Habits provides practical tips for making a habit more irresistible and increasing the likelihood of habit formation. The chapter emphasizes the importance of manipulating the habit loop by making the cue more obvious, the routine more attractive, and the reward more satisfying. It also highlights the importance of aligning our habits with our desired identity and values. In Chapter 9 of Atomic Habits, James Clear discusses the role of family and friends in shaping our habits. He argues that our social environment plays a critical role in our behavior and that the people around us can either help or hinder our efforts to develop good habits. Clear begins by noting that we tend to adopt the habits of those around us, often without even realizing it. He refers to this phenomenon as social contagion, and notes that it can be a powerful force in shaping our behavior. He provides several examples of how social contagion can influence our habits, such as how we tend to eat more when we're with friends or how we're more likely to start smoking if our friends smoke. Clear then explores the concept of social norms, which are the unwritten rules that govern behavior in a particular group or community. He notes that social norms can have a profound impact on our habits and that we often feel pressure to conform to them. He suggests that one way to use social norms to our advantage is to surround ourselves with people who have the habits we want to adopt. By doing so, we can tap into the power of social influence and make it easier to develop good habits. Clear also discusses the role of accountability in habit formation. He notes that we're more likely to stick to our habits when we're held accountable by others. He suggests finding an accountability partner, such as a friend or family member, who can help us stay on track with our habits. He also suggests making our habits more public, such as by sharing our progress on social media or with a group of friends, as a way of increasing accountability. Clear concludes the chapter by emphasizing the importance of choosing our social environment carefully. He notes that we have a choice in who we spend time with and that we should seek out people who support our goals and values. He suggests joining groups or communities that align with our desired habits and values, and actively seeking out relationships that are positive and supportive. Overall, Chapter 9 of Atomic Habits highlights the crucial role that our social environment plays in shaping our habits. The chapter provides practical tips for harnessing the power of social influence, such as by surrounding ourselves with people who have the habits we want to adopt, finding accountability partners, and making our habits more public. It emphasizes the importance of choosing our social environment carefully and seeking out relationships that are positive and supportive of our goals and values. In Chapter 10 of Atomic Habits, James Clear discusses how to identify and fix the root causes of our bad habits. He argues that in order to make lasting changes to our behavior, we need to understand the underlying reasons why we engage in these habits in the first place. Clear begins the chapter by emphasizing the importance of self-awareness. He notes that we often engage in bad habits without fully understanding why we do so. He suggests taking a closer look at our habits and trying to identify the triggers that set them off. For example, if we tend to eat junk food when we're stressed, we should try to identify the specific situations that trigger our stress and the emotions that accompany it. Clear then introduces the concept of the 4 laws of behavior change, which he introduced earlier in the book. These laws are: make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. He notes that by applying these laws to our bad habits, we can make it easier to break them and develop new, healthier habits. Clear then discusses several strategies for identifying the root causes of our bad habits. One approach is to use a habit tracker to monitor our behavior and identify patterns over time. Another approach is to ask ourselves a series of questions that can help us uncover the underlying reasons behind our habits. For example, we might ask ourselves why we engage in a particular habit, what emotions we feel when we engage in that habit, and what triggers our behavior. Once we've identified the root cause of our bad habits, Clear suggests several strategies for fixing them. One approach is to make our bad habits more difficult to engage in. For example, if we tend to waste time on social media, we might delete the apps from our phone or install a browser extension that blocks our access to these sites. Another approach is to replace our bad habits with healthier alternatives. For example, if we tend to eat junk food when we're stressed, we might find healthier ways to manage our stress, such as meditation or exercise. Clear concludes the chapter by emphasizing the importance of persistence and patience when it comes to changing our habits. He notes that habits are deeply ingrained patterns of behavior that take time and effort to change. He encourages readers to be patient with themselves and to keep working at their habits, even when progress seems slow. Overall, Chapter 10 of Atomic Habits provides practical strategies for identifying and fixing the root causes of our bad habits. The chapter emphasizes the importance of self-awareness and understanding the underlying reasons why we engage in certain habits. It provides several strategies for fixing bad habits, such as making them more difficult to engage in and replacing them with healthier alternatives. The chapter encourages readers to be persistent and patient in their efforts to change their habits.